Here.
Yeah.
Ben Vitale.
Right.
Pat Winston.
Present.
Train rats.
Present.
Annie McNabb Holden.
Present.
Hans Petcher.
Here.
Mark Strong.
Here.
Heidi Nightingale.
Present.
Lane Daly.
Here.
Amy Sargent.
Here.
Video
on Zoom.
Brian Muldrow.
Here.
Jonathan Anna.
Present, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. This time I'd like to invite Kevin Schwab to come up to the platform. I believe his wife Lindsay is here and brought one of your kids with you.
Yes.
You can all come up. For those that don't know, Kevin Schwab is our Director of Veteran Services for Cayuga County. He is a resident of the Auburn area and a veteran of the U.S. Army. This year he was inaugurated right, in the New York State Senate Veterans Hall of Fame. During his career, he was deployed to Saudi Arabia during Operation Desert Storm. He served in Haiti during Operation Restore Democracy, and in 2009, he retired as a major from the U.S. Army. This evening, I have a proclamation to recognize his induction into the Hall of Fame. And it says, whereas in our democratic society, it is important civic responsibility and a great honor for any governmental body to grant public recognition, admiration, and gratitude to the very citizens who have helped build this community and influence the future of its citizens. And whereas Kevin Schwab served 24 years in the U.S. Army and National Guard, his career as a rifle platoon leader in 1987. Whereas Schwab was deployed on active service in Saudi Arabia in 1990 as part of Desert Storm, he deployed again in 1994 in support of Operation Restore Democracy in Haiti. And whereas in 2000, Schwab returned full-time from the National Guard as battalion officer. And in 2001, he planned the deployment of soldiers for Operation Noble Eagle, which provides soldiers to assist in security at commercial airports across the state. In 2009, Schwab retired, having earned numerous recognitions, including Victorious Service Medal, Army Achievement Medal, Combat Infantry Badge, Ranger Badge, and Airborne and Air Assault badges. And whereas following his recruitment, Schwab spent over 10 years as a senior military science instructor and over 6 years as a recruiting officer with Cornell Army Reserve Officer Training Corps between returning to service. Currently, he's been announced he serves as director of a county agency and serves veterans across the county. He retired as major and now serves is now in the Hall of Fame. I'll say this on a personal note. I've only known Kevin for about a year and a half, and I've never met someone that has more of a passion. It's just not veterans, but people in general. And he has a real passion for veterans and reaching people. We're really lucky to have him. He does a really good job, and it's what's inside his heart. And I want to say congratulations. So on behalf of myself and the Cayuga County Legislature, I do hereby proclaim the gratitude of our residents and urge residents of our county to join with us in recognition of Kevin Schwab Day, which was Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. So congratulations, today's your day.
Thank you. I'm truly honored to have been given this recognition, New York State Hall of Fame, and now with this proclamation. I see it not only as a recognition of achievements, but also something to live up to as well. But no one achieves anything on their own. So I want to acknowledge that I believe that God has directed me in different areas where I can make a difference. And I really wanted my wife to be here because I really appreciate her. And what she's done is that she puts up with me. And also the thing that wasn't on the proclamation is during COVID, I actually came out of retirement and spent 15 months on state active duty with the New York Guard. So as the world is shutting down, I'm leaving her and the kids at home. So I really appreciate that she did that. during that time frame and everything else that she has done with me along the way. In my current position, I couldn't do what I do without the help of my deputy director, Jennifer Wilder. She really often holds down the fort when I get to go out and do different things. So I appreciate her. I also had a man named Mike Legault who worked with me for over a year. And he's moved on and he just got his LPN, which is a pretty awesome accomplishment for him. And across agencies, Carol Riggle, who works in the Office of Mental Health, she helps me by doing the reporting for the Dwyer program. And I really appreciate that because I'm not a numbers guy in any way, shape, form, or manner. I've told the budget people I'm not an accountant. I don't play one on TV. And each of you have had a part in helping me as well. I think pretty much everyone in here I've interacted with as well to make a difference for our veterans here in Cayuga County. Now, I also want to recognize Legislator Shea brought to my attention that Kurt Atkins, an Eagle Scout in Union Springs, created a memorial out at Chestnut Hill Cemetery in Union Springs, which was just unveiled, not this weekend, but the weekend before, I believe. And it's because of people like him and the great citizens of Cayuga County that, veterans feel the appreciation that we give them, not just from the government, but just the community support that they get. So I really just want to thank you all and again, acknowledge the appreciation for this recognition. Now I have to bring my family home. So.
So this evening, we have 3 presentations. I'd like to start with the Water Quality Management Agency, so Adam Affler and section. Michelle, you're gonna join.
Michelle has to come. She's the glue of the station.
And it's for the down arrow too. Stay in the slideshow view though.
So yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Seth Jensen, and I am currently the Vice Chair of Cayuga County Water Quality Management Agency. I'm joined here tonight with Adam Affler, the Executive Director of the Watershed Management Council for Wasco Lake. I'm the Director of Municipal Utilities. I work for the City of Auburn. I've been in that capacity for about 9 years now. And for those 9 years, I've also been an active member on WQMA, serving as a member, with a chair for a few years until they finally kicked me off. Not too far because I'm still vice chair. Ani Fish is currently our chair. She could not be with us here tonight because of a newborn child. So she is off for a period of time with that. So again, thank you for the opportunity. So WQMA, for those who may not be aware, was created in 1990 by the county legislature, and really the core responsibility of this agency is to provide guidance back to the legislature or take questions from the legislature around all of the beautiful water quality, water assets that we have in Cayuga County. Fun fact, Cayuga County has the most freshwater waterfront land than any other county within New York State. So we are certainly blessed by this natural resource that surrounds us and defines us as a community, I think. I know when I'm traveling, folks might not know where Auburn is. Folks might think upstate New York is just a few miles north of New York City. But I define myself as a resident of the Finger Lakes, right? Or near the Great Lake. We certainly use that to define who we are. So the legislature back in 1990 had the foresight to create this agency to provide some technical assistance and skill set as it relates to our precious resources. little bit redundant, again, but our mission, the mission of this agency is to be that resource, to the legislature, for any water, related issue. We're also, a public, forum for our residents, and have taken part and created some technical documents or guidance documents along the way, in various water quality, related realms. We're a pretty diverse group of individuals that meet monthly. When do we meet? It's on my calendar. The first Thursday, of every month, we meet. And this group is made up of a lot of your staff, your technical, workforce, and they are, phenomenal, people to work with and to be able to collaborate and coordinate with on a monthly basis. So there's folks from the planning department, parks department, solid waste, county, soil and water conservation district, Cornell Cooperative Extension, so on and so forth, as well as Ani, who's with environmental health. So, in addition to the county staff members that attend this meeting and our members on this board, it's also comprised of myself as the City of Auburn official, and Ed Wagner is the Town of Owasco official. In addition to the two primary water purveyors in our region, there's also availability for town association of town supervisors and an association of village board member supervisor. And last but not least, and where I get a lot of information from every month, is all of the small and large lakes that comprise Cayuga County, from Lake Como, Duck Lake, what is it? Little Sodas Bay, Cross Lake. I'm sure you've heard of a multitude of issues Cross Lake has encountered over the flooding to invasive species. Howla is represented on this board as well for Owasco Lake, and then the Skinny Atlas Lake Association. So it's a pretty diverse group, and above the actual 7 voting members that attend this meeting on a monthly basis, we have advisors from DEC that join regularly, Finger Lakes Prism, Hobart Williams Smith, other institutions, CSI Laboratories in Ithaca comes up occasionally. All sorts of diverse, yet highly technical, specialized people when it comes to water quality and water issues. So on an annual basis, I'm not sure if you guys have seen or read through our annual report, but every spring we'll develop an action plan of goals and initiatives that specific steering committee members will work on. And primarily lately, we've been heavily focused on public outreach and information. Michelle does a wonderful job in pushing public information and documentation out to county residents to understand different things that might be going on around invasive species, which is the second working group, recycling days, anything and everything water quality. In addition, we've put out some fairly technical documents as well in past years. Guidelines associated with residential lawn maintenance, manure application guidelines, and then municipal ditch maintenance guidelines, all within the framework of trying to protect and preserve our freshwater resources around us. As I mentioned, this is a great platform. I really enjoy attending these meetings. It reinvigorates me as my background in environmental engineering, it reinvigorates me into different ideas and concepts that I can do within the city of Auburn. It helps to collaborate even larger projects or coordinate projects with like county parks, with cleaning out the sluiceway between the lake and the Wasco outlet through Emerson Park. There's all sorts of interesting concepts that come up that I learned from that I'm able to take back to my staff and or city council to try to move forward good water quality related measures even within the city of Auburn. And I think that that's something that these other participants also gather from this meeting on a monthly basis is, well, they're doing it this way. Maybe I should try to do that as part of my lake association or something along those lines. So it's certainly a great forum for collaboration. And again, I don't think that, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like sometimes, I don't know if you guys as legislatures know that we're here to help if you run into an issue with a constituent dealing with a water quality issue. I'm sure that list of county staff you're engaged with all the time around septics or other issues that might pop up. So Water Conservation District does a ton of work across the landscape to help not only the farming community, but the municipal community when storms hit, restoring ditches and waterways and things like that. So this is some testimonials from the members, and since Ani isn't here, I'm not going to read all of them, but I will read Ani's. She says that WQMA is an excellent place to stay informed on water quality across the county, not just for our public water supplies. It is a good place to share ideas and experiences across departments and groups, and has built valuable relationships that are mutually beneficial. Ani Fish, Cayuga County, environmental health. So I'm going to pass the torch, but before I do that, I'll leave you with one quick story or a little bit more information about me. I just can't help myself. Being in the Ag Museum, walking through to get into this meeting here today. But one of my passions since I was a little kid is antique tractor restoration. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out of here because I just wanted to mess with everything on my way in. So I don't discriminate. I have restored an Ellis Chalmers B. I've restored a 1938 John Deere L. 2-cylinder, awesome tractor, probably my favorite. And then a farm all cups. I have all the colors. I know some people are like green, red. Thank you.
Yep.
I'll pass it down.
Thanks, Ed. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Effler. I'm the Executive Director of the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council. I'm thrilled to engage with the Cayuga County Legislature tonight. I've been looking forward to doing so for some time now. So it's my pleasure to present with you on another collaborative group that's been mobilizing over recent years, and that is the Owasco Lake Watershed 9-Element Plan Project Coordination Committee. Mouthful, I know it, but I'll explain. Right, so this committee's efforts are founded in the Owasco Lake 9-Element Plan for phosphorus reduction. So phosphorus reduction is a target for reducing lake eutrophication for Owasco Lake. And that means the formation of nuisance algae, including harmful algal blooms. This particular plan was approved by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the New York State Department of State in September of 2022. And I would like to provide recognition for the Cayuga County Planning Department that spearheaded this particular project. They did a tremendous job. And in fact, it was the first 9-element plan for a lake in New York and a Finger Lake, right? So ahead of the rest. Okay, so the recommended practice for the 9-element plan was to support the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council, this intermunicipal organization,
to play a central role in lake and watershed management, and also to help direct the various implementation recommendations that came out of this clean water plan. Okay, so the 9-element plan for phosphorus reduction for Wasco Lake is considered a clean water plan. There's some other forms of clean water plans. Some of you may have heard of TMDLs, as well as drinking water source protection plans, just for examples. Our 9-element plan as a clean water plan, we understand to be a pathway for funding. So that's important, right? So when we write grant proposals, we refer to the state approved plan and the relevant recommendations within the plan that have to do with whatever project or program we're looking forward to advancing. And we understand that we will be eligible at a higher level than perhaps other applicants. So that's the strategy there. Okay, so in November of 2022, during the Wasco Lake Watershed Management Council's board meeting for that month, we approved of the creation of this 9-element plan project coordination committee. And the goal of this committee is to prioritize, coordinate, and facilitate projects, programs in their implementation based again on the recommendations of the 9 elements. Now, Seth spoke to the various collaboration pathways for WQMA, right? A forum where partners and members can come to the same space and can identify synergies. And that's really important, right? How can we best leverage our strengths to be able to mobilize important work towards protecting our resources, right? And that's certainly the case for this committee towards advancing the 9-element plan towards protecting Owasco Lake water quality. Now, there's a wide variety of partners. They run the gamut from Cayuga County Planning Department. Michelle's a huge player on keeping us on path. Again, Seth mentioned the glue. So we always appreciate having her involved. As well as the Cayuga County Soil and Water Conservation District, right? Very highly involved in advancing agricultural best management practices, as well as local colleges, and also conservation groups that are targeting both land acquisition and land easements within the watershed for the function of protecting what we consider ecosystem services, like trying to keep wetlands and forested areas protected for the protection of our water quality resources. Okay. All right, so I just want to go over a few of our major work and accomplishments. So the group works collaboratively and assists one another in coordinating ongoing watershed grants. So opportunities and or composition of proposals for subsequent awards. And so currently the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council is operating a federal grant that is the Sustain Our Great Lakes Owasco Lake Inlet Stream Bank Restoration Grant. Okay, so this is targeting stream bank stabilization projects along the Owasco Inlet, primarily in the town of Locke. We're working with a couple of different partners on implementing that particular project. And then currently we are also getting underway. We're now underway with a City of Auburn Stream Corridor Assessment Grant. So the idea is assessing the condition of in this case, stream corridors in the Owasco Lake, Huck 12. So that is a hydrologic unit code. Some people refer to this as a sub-watershed within a watershed. So those streams that make up a sub-watershed. And this is at the north end of the lake. So it includes the Ness Brook and Sucker Brook. The reason for the assessment is to identify problem areas or targeted areas for stream bank stabilization, land acquisition, and protection measures to protect those stream corridors. Again, having the assessment in place then positions us better for a subsequent request for a grant to move those sorts of projects forward. Okay, and so we talked some about synergies. Well, what's great is that simultaneously the Finger Lakes Land Trust has a water quality improvement project grant for Sucker Brook. They're interested in our stream assessment project in terms of identifying locations where they can move forward with land acquisitions. We understand they've already done so. They have some remaining budget, so they're interested in what we find out in terms of targeting additional work in that area. Okay, we also are working on report tracking for our committee efforts. And this is where Michelle's been a huge player. So thanks to the planning department on that front in particular. And so just recently, during our last month's meeting, we were able to pull together a wide array of best management practice statistics that were provided by the Cayuga County Soil and Water Conservation District in collaboration with Cornell Cooperative Extension, as well as New York State Ag and Markets, so that we can really relate to the public with transparency and enthusiasm the work that's being done to protect the watershed for the benefit of protecting lake water quality. With that, I'd like to open the floor to questions for either Seth or myself. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Any legislators, any questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
At this time, I'd like to invite the SPCA Executive Director, Nicholas Preston.
Hello, I'd like to introduce myself first and say my name is Nick. I'm the Executive Director at the SPCA. I'm joined here with our Board President, Anastasia Zagarowicz, and our new Humane Law Enforcement Officer, Jessica Krasminski. I'd like to thank the legislative for inviting us here tonight. Thank you, Tom. And I'd also like to thank our Sheriff Brian Skank for his collaboration the past year and a half since I've become director. He's been a great asset and a great help. So I would like to talk about our humane law enforcement and what we do, the services we provide to the county. So our humane law enforcement is, we enforce Ag and Markets, Article 26 laws. With the services that we provide, we hold live evidence for court cases. We perform necropsies. We do humane education, social services work, and we provide expertise to law enforcement and other agencies within Cayuga County regarding agriculture and market law, Article 26. As an incorporated society prevention of cruelty to animals within the state of New York. We are in the Department of Criminal Justice, and that gives us the authority to go and oversee Article 26 within Cayuga County. Service requests and collaboration. So the different departments that we are working with Cayuga County is the Cayuga County Sheriff's Office, primarily their road patrol, criminal investigations, their civil section, and the jail. We also work with the Cayuga County District Attorney's Office and the Cayuga County Social Services, primarily with their child protective services and their adult protective services. So these are the offices that we are primarily working with on a weekly basis. I'd like to just give a few examples of incidences that have happened that we've been involved with. So the first is People versus Kevin H. Ward. On 9/4/24, a special condition was granted to Mr. Ward by a judge. All the animals that he had needed to be surrendered within 14 days, and he was not to obtain new animals for the duration of his sentence. Upon going to Mr. Ward's house with the county sheriff's office on September 6th, we determined that Mr. Ward had 32 dogs, 4 koi fish, 10 ducks, 10 chickens, 1 goat, and 1 peacock living within his residence. The SPCA, we did assume custody of all those animals on that day. And then we also have the People versus Ashley Gordon. This case started off by a dog bite that was reported to the town of Conquest. Upon entering the home, there were deceased animals found. We were called into the scene. We obtained a search and seizure warrant, and that was obtained on January 10th of 2024. Upon entering the home with said warrant, we did find, in addition to the deceased evidence, we did find 3 live evidence suspects. While that court case proceeded, we held that live evidence for 191 days. So those are just a couple examples of the court cases that we deal with. On the social services aspect, these are cases that do not result in criminal charges, but there is a mental health issue that's going on, and adult protective services, child protective services have been notified and been involved. So on April 30th of 2025, we received a request from Cayuga County Adult Protective Services. They could not proceed with helping the individuals due to the animals and the conditions within the home. Upon our team arriving at the home, working with the people, we obtained 21 animals into our custody, allowing Adult Protective Services to continue their work with helping the individuals. Also on 5/30/25, the Sheriff's Office and our SPCA, we both received anonymous complaints regarding animal cruelty and neglect. With collaborating with the Sheriff's Office and us, we went to the residents to investigate any potential crimes. Upon presenting we presented the evidence to the Cayuga County District Attorney's Office. There was a major concern for mental health within this home, so we did not proceed any criminal charges. However, the people were asking for help and the animals needed to be removed due to the conditions of the home. We stepped in, we obtained custody of 32 animals out of that home. And also Adult Protective Services is still there, and this is an ongoing situation. So in 2023, our Humane Law Enforcement Department, we investigated 386 complaints for animal neglect and cruelty within Cayuga County. The cost of us being on those scenes and being called to those investigations were $15,440. Our Humane Law Enforcement obtained custody of 61 animals. The general social service cost was $71,675,000. 8 animals were held as evidence for court cases that year. The cost of that live evidence was $9,000. Total live evidence was held for 312 days. The total cost was $6,115 to the SPCA to perform this service in 2023. In 2024, we investigated 224 complaints of animal cruelty and neglect within Cayuga County. The cost of those investigations was $8,960. Humane Law Enforcement did obtain custody of 56 animals for social services cases. The cost of that was $51,800. 4 animals were held as live evidence for court cases, and the holding cost of those live evidence was $19,550. The total live evidence was held for 764 days, and the total for 2024 was $80,310. Looking at next steps for our Humane Law Enforcement, we have had some great meetings and collaboration efforts with the District Attorney and the County Sheriff's Office. I hope to be able to continue that collaboration to establish a formal animal cruelty task force so we can all work together and stamp out animal cruelty and neglect within Cayuga County. And I'm also looking for the Cayuga County Legislative to look at partnering in a contract with the Finger Lakes SPCA for these services and our help with these departments within Cayuga County. At this time, we are looking for $25,000 for a contract. My hope is that we can just continue these conversations as we move forward, because we do feel as though that this is part of our mission. And we want to provide these services for the county ongoing, but as the cost of care just keeps increasing in veterinary care, it's becoming increasingly difficult for us to keep offering these services. And with that, I would just like to thank the Cayuga County Legislative and everybody here tonight for listening to my presentation. And I would like to just open it up if anybody has any questions.
Any legislature, any questions?
The length of some of the live evidence going on for a tremendous number of days into year, over a year plus, is that due to, the prosecution timelines or the investigation into the mental health issue timeline?
Yes, it is. So a lot of times it's that prosecution timeline. Again, what we try to do in those situations is number one and foremost, the individuals, the Cayuga County District Attorney, we try to get those individuals to surrender those animals over to the SPCA, so we do not have to hold them as evidence. Unfortunately, you know, with those proceedings, sometimes those individuals do not want to forfeit their rights over of their property. So then we have to hold on to those animals until the judge would warrant that we can obtain custody, or the judge could warrant that the owner gets that property back. So that's the reasoning behind it. But what we do is we do try to get restitution after 30 days. I can ask for restitution of all medical bills. I can ask for restitution for holding that evidence. Unfortunately, 95% of the time, those individuals do not have the means to pay for that. But we do that to really try to push to get those people to surrender those animals, because holding that live evidence for that amount of time does not benefit that animal at all. And we want to get that animal in our custody and start, you know, being able to perform non-essential medical care for that animal.
Anyone else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Luke Malecki is to Joshua Malecki. There are auditors.
Good evening. My name is Luke Malecki. I was the engagement partner, actively am the engagement partner on your external audit. With me is Amy Ainsley. We're here to just kind of go over the summary of the results of the audit. We're in the final phases. We are still waiting on a couple of items. There are a couple of case files related to foster care program that are in the old building that we're working handily with DSS, county attorneys, New York State and legal to recreate those files. That the DSS is working on those. We expect to be able to conclude on that work in September. So we'll have to hold the report until then. Also waiting on some component unit information. But for the all intents and purposes, there won't be any material changes with the numbers that we discussed tonight. So we did want to get in front of your legislature before you start entering into the budget season. And it's helpful to have last year's result before you look at next year's. So Amy's going to walk us through a couple of the products of our audit.
Hi, I'm going to walk through the products of our audit. So the first and the most important ones are your financial statements. Like Luke said, we're still finalizing a few things, but we do anticipate moving forward with an unmodified opinion, which means a clean opinion on the financial statements. In those financial statements, we also include federal awards and any programs that we test during the year. So for this year, we're testing foster care, Medicaid, food stamp, WIC, opioid, ARPA, child care, and then Homeland Security. With that, there's no findings or federal compliance with any of those. With those foster care cases being outstanding at this point, if something were to happen and we can't get those in by September, that would lead to a finding for those cases, but it's due to the building closure, so there's the kind of reasoning for that. Also included in the financial statements is an opinion on the internal control for the county. So for that, there's no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that we noted within our testing. The next item is the management letter. We use the management letter to communicate best practices for the county. We met with the director of finance last week to go through any recommendations we may have, and we'll formalize those in a letter at the end. The next is the auditor communication letter. So within this, it includes what our responsibility is as your auditors. We provide a reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. We are able to do this because we are independent of the county. We do attest to that when we do our at the beginning of every year. So anybody who worked on the audit is independent. Also within this is any changes to accounting policies for the county. During this year, there was a new government accounting standard board update that affected compensated absences. We're still evaluating that a little bit with the director of finance, and that could lead to a restatement for that position, but that wouldn't affect your fund statements or the fund balance for the county. We had full cooperation of the county throughout our audit with everything we requested. And then the last thing included in there is any estimates that are included in the county's financial statements. We test those throughout, whether it be something that management develops or something that comes from an external party. There was no big changes to any of those. The last item is the Department of Transportation report. So we have compliance for any state funding received for like CHIPS or Pave New York to help with any transportation costs.
So Save the, for the foster care has been a very clean audit, and there's a lot of work that goes into this job, about 550 to 600 hours. So a special thanks to Grace and Lynn and their staff for bearing with our auditors. And we're still struggling with everyone in the county with the access to the building, but we're trying to make it work. The reason September is important is that's when you're due to file your single audit. So there's basically a timeline to get those last remaining cases. Talking with Sherry over there, she didn't anticipate any issues, but anything could happen. So with that, we'll shift a little bit to the financial statement update. I did include some comparative graphs here. I just want to note that that's information that's unaudited by us. It's actually obtained from the New York State Office of State Controllers, Open Book New York site. Foremost, the first slide here is your overall revenues and expenses. As you can see, for the second straight year, the red line has exceeded the blue line, which means that there was a decrease in fund balance. Heading into January 2024, the county had $42.1 million of fund balance. This past year, there was $8 million of that fund balance was used to fulfill outstanding obligations and operations, ending with a $34.1 million fund balance. The initial plan going into this year was to use $7.1 million through the budget process, as well as about $3.5 million of 2023 purchase orders that carried in. So a total use of fund balance of pretty close to 10.5 million. So if everything came to fruition, those purchase orders were closed and the budget did come to its exact position, you would have expected to use 11.1. So the county did outperform its budget a little bit, but you're cutting into that use of fund balance still by using about $8 million in fund balance. Last year, I sat up here and discussed the point that you had planned to use 3 million, ended up using about 1.5 million, and that trend is continuing. So if there's a budgeted use of fund balance in the county, it seems that use of fund balance is actually coming to fruition, which will come into play at a later slide when we walk through where the fund balance levels are. This year, your total expenses were 179.4 million. Your total revenues are 171.4 million. Very difficult to get into too much detail when looking at $180 million of spending throughout the county. My goal here is just to provide a 10,000 foot view of where the county ended up in 2024 and to set the table as you enter into your budget discussions. The one thing I'd like to point out is the dynamic trend that we're seeing from 22 to 24. I kind of isolated the 2020 year and the 2021 year because those were anomalies being in the pandemic. And it's still difficult to get a full read on what the true cost of the programs that the county is offering, as well as the aid that's coming in, because there's still ARPA dollars in here and there's other one-time costs, and we're trying to navigate the changing in the Medicaid system and those sort of things. But looking at those 3 years post-pandemic, the revenues of this county have increased at an average rate of 4.3%, and the expenditures are increasing at an average rate of 7.4%. So certainly there's one-time costs that happen with the building and some other items that we'll touch upon. There's also one-time revenues that would also kind of balance that act out. So the fact of the matter, if you're looking at the history of the last 3 years, the expenditures of the county are increasing at a faster pace than the revenues, which that combined with the use of fund balance is a predicament as you're entering into the 26 budget season into the 27 and further to the 28. The next slide here is a breakdown of your revenues, the top graded portion is, the two gray portions comprise your total sales tax that the county collects. The second one does not stay within the county. That goes to your local municipalities. So the amount of sales tax that's staying within the county was 31.8 million. As you can see, since 2020 to 2021, there was a huge bump up in that year, about 23%. But since then, that's leveled off. So there was a strong windfall in that 2021 year, because that was also the year that ARPA came into the mix. So there was the one-time aid of the ARPA that you used over the course of the last 3 years, as well as about a $6 million bump in sales tax that has not repeated since then. That's some of the, where the situation occurs that the fund balance has started to decrease. You can see the yellow portion, this is real property tax, that has remained level at about 25% of your total revenue budgets, covering around $44 million. The blue portion has consistently increased over the 21, 22, and 23 and 24. It was related largely from the ARPA coming in. About, I believe it was about 17 million came into your county, and that was spread out. And there's still some outstanding unearned revenue that will be recognized in 24, 25. It does need to be spent by 2026. This past year, there was an increase in some of the state aid, helping to offset some of the rising costs with some of the social programs. But when we look at it on a very surface level look, because there's a lot of detail in there that I'm sure your budget director would be able to dive a little deeper, it looked like the state aid is increasing at about 50 to 60% of what the actual costs of the programs are. So there's certainly not a dollar for dollar match. And some of that is being made up by the county's fund balance or through the county's operating budget. The last portion that I want to point out, it's not even big enough to have a number, but that low, I'm colorblind, so I'm going to say orange color is includes $2.5 million of interest earnings. That's money that the county has grown into the budget with the rising interest rate costs or rising interest environment, and having some extra ARPA cash on hand that was allowed and permitted to earn interest on that. So that again is an uncertain item moving forward, similar to where the state and federal grant money would come. That's the revenues. On the expense side of things, total expenses that I said was 179.4 million. There were some one-time expenditures in here. There was about a $3 million transfer to the capital projects fund to help with the building operations, as well as some of the ARPA projects. There was an unpredictable cost that was passed down to the county through the form of mental health of about $1.5 million. And there were about $1.5 million of capital grant funding that came through. So all told with those is about $6 million of the 17 million increase was one-time shot of expenses that we are both unpredictable and not routine. On the other hand, you can see in the economic assistance and opportunity, it did increase by 5.1 million. This is a trend that we're seeing across the state and several of our counties, depending on their the county's use of the social programs that are out there. Namely, we're seeing large increases in foster care and safety net, as well as increases in Medicaid that are now being affected by the federal FMAP reimbursement that's not being supported by the state. So a lot of difficult expenditures that are increasing within those social programs. Additionally, you'll see that your public safety, the third one down there, increased by close to $3 million. That's one of the, there was about 1.5 million of that was related to those one-time grants I talked about with 9/11 radio grant and some other radio equipment. But there's also another $1.5 million or so that's related to salaries and cost of living increases, namely related to the jail expenditures that are within there. Health increased by 1.9, but the majority of that is related to that mental health cost. What we're starting to see across the state is a lot of the COVID era pandemic programs related to health are starting to go down because you're not doing the epidemiology grants and those sort of things. Whereas the top portion where your social services programs are, your economic assistance, the barriers of using that program, it became a lot more accessible during COVID, and those are continuing to be used throughout the counties that we're working with. The last item I did touch upon was that transfers out down below. So that's the expenditures side of things. Certainly, the total expenses did increase by about 9.3 million, but if we remove some of those one-time costs, it gets closer to around 5 or 6% when we're looking at the true costs. But what we're seeing is one-time cost one year, there's going to be another one-time cost next year. We just don't know what it is yet. So this is where the fund balance is. You're still at a very a reasonably safe level of unassigned fund balance. You're at 14.3. I will point out it's the lowest unassigned fund balance that you had in the last 5 years. You can see in 2020 to 2021, that was the year where there was kind of a spending freeze, but then the sales tax came in, so you were able to build a significant amount of fund balance similar to other counties throughout the state. Peaked in 2022 at about $53 million, and as I said, now you're down to about 34.1. The red portion represents non-spendable or restricted. That's off limits to the county, that cannot be used because it's either going to has to be used for specific capital projects or as a prepaid asset. The lighter blue portion, that's the amount that has been encumbered. Those are the purchase orders that are carried over from 24 into 25. So that's going to impact the operations of 2025, as well as the budget. That number did decrease. So I said that your total fund balance decreased by 8 million. 3.6 million of that was absorbed by a reduction in the purchase orders, so putting a freeze on purchase orders that could get carried forward, as well as starting to wean yourself off of the amount that was appropriated in the 2025 budget. If you look back to 2020, there was essentially all of that light blue portion was just the carryovers of the encumbrances. Over the course of fund balance growing, the county's budget began to become reliant on the use of fund balance, so that lighter blue portion swelled to about $11 million in 2023. And that was, yes, last year when I presented and discussed how that number is actually becoming used in the budget process. So if that trend continues and the budget continues to rely on fund balance, and 25 comes into play as it was planned, which is the use of about 5.5 million of fund balance, you're headed into the 26 year with about $14.2 million on your hand to plug those gap between the rising expenditures and the sort of leveling off of revenue. So certainly a difficult challenge heading into the 26 budget year. And I'll reiterate, it appears that these trends continue, the reliance on having that fund balance to the extent that has become accustomed to the county isn't sustainable with a $14.3 million fund balance available for the unassignments. So to look kind of at where you are as it relates to the budget, this is a number that the Government Finance Officers Association likes to look at. It's basically how much of that rainy day fund, that available fund balance, is available to meet unknown costs or help in the event of anticipating your tax revenue collections. So typically, the only guidance that anyone will ever give on this number is the GFOA says it is a best practice to try to keep 2 months of spending on hand to help plug that 60-day gap before when the year closes to when you start bringing taxes in. That would be about 17%. Right now, the county is at about 8%. And you can see that in 2022, the county was at that level. And then in 23, there was an anticipated and a projected use of fund balance of close to 8 million. In 24, we saw, or in 23, it was, 3 million, but it chipped into that number because it included about an $8 million use of fund balance in 24, and we saw that trend continue into 24. This year, I added a slide here that just kind of presents similar counties. There's no two counties in the state. It's pretty amazing how counties throughout the state all provide very similar services, but the structure and the populations and the revenues and the expenditures are very different from one county to the next. So it's not possible to keep track on all of them, but we just picked the 4 counties haphazardly that there's not. It just happens that they all start with C except for Wayne. But this is based on the AFR data that was available. So there are some probably more comparable counties that we could use, but their information wasn't available. Of the budgets, the most similar budget you have is Wayne County, but they are sitting on a very large amount of fund balance. So as I said, this is an unassigned fund balance, and I just kind of wanted to show that of the ones that I looked at and the ones that had a city, each of those actually had a dip in unassigned fund balance. So I guess it's the misery loves company, but it's also an indicator that the social programs and the aid are misbalanced in those counties that are using those programs. And we're starting to see a little bit of a downturn in unassigned fund balance. So just to give it a matter of perspective, your budget was set, or your expenditures and transfers out were about 180 million. Wayne's are at about 176. Cortland's at 130. Neighboring county, Shenango's at 107. And Cattaraugus is at 232. Of those 4, your unassigned fund, and again, it was really haphazard and random that I selected these ones, try to look at population and size of the budget and proximity. Your unassigned fund balance was 14.3. Wayne's was way off the charts at 84.1. Cortland's at 18.7 million. Shenango's at 32.4, and Cattaraugus is at 30.5. But I did say yours decreased, your unassigned fund balance decreased by, not by the 8 million, that was the total fund, but it's unassigned decreased by about 4.9 million. The next closest in this chart was Cattaraugus decreased by 10. So just kind of give you a little bit of perspective. I can certainly, at your request, if the data is available, I can swap out any of these counties to give you a perspective on that. My information is on that last slide. So if there's any county that you'd like to see me plug into our software and pull those numbers out, I'd be happy to do that for you. But that concludes our presentation. Again, I did want to say thank you to your county staff. Amy did mention the management letter. I think it needs to be said that when we started working with the county, the management letter was a lot longer than it is today. And that was a lot to do with Grace's hard work and equipping her with some accounting staff that can attack some of those best practices. So good job on the audit, an unmodified opinion in all respects. The only outstanding item will be that foster care. Certainly you have a share of items that will come up in the budget talks moving forward. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them now. Or as I said, my information and Amy's information is on this last slide here. Feel free to reach out. We work for the full ledge and I'm happy to answer your questions to the best of our ability.
Any legislators and questions?
I just have a curious question. There were times where people would say at some point, if the trend continues, the county would be sort of on a watch list, or there would be some financial position that would have to be reported. Is there any truth to any of that?
There's the Office of the State Controller has a fiscal stress score. I don't memorize it. I do know if you dip into an unassigned deficit, it potentially could trigger that. But basically on a regular basis, their state auditors are taking that AFR numbers, your annual financial report numbers that your accounting staff files with the state. They're plugging it into a spreadsheet, and there's all that math is mapped out on the OSC's website. So certainly that's something that the trigger race could set you up with to see what triggers that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah. Any legislators? Oh. Thank you, Luke. Privilege of the floor. Any legislators offer privilege of the floor?
I'd like to offer privilege of the floor to Sue Dwyer.
See everybody.
Hello.
So
I'd like to thank all of the Cayuga County legislators, all the county staff, department heads, for the work you continue to do during this very challenging time. I can't even imagine trying to deliver services under these circumstances, so I don't know how you're doing it, but it seems like you're doing okay. I'm here tonight to express my opinion about finding a permanent office for our local DMV. That department has done a great job considering many challenges. The next move for them should be a permanent location. This is just my opinion. Not just another temporary fix. The staff and our taxpayers deserve to have an easy way to access the many services they offer. Many of you know some of the services, but let me remind you of some of the major help that they deliver to your constituents. There are many problems with Easy Pass. People are always saying they're getting letters. Said they were on the Brooklyn Bridge one day and they haven't left Cayuga County. And it goes on and on with that. It's very hard to navigate online system that the DMV put together, the state DMV. So they come into our DMV and they get the help they need, and they're no longer in fear of having a fine or a ticket or anything outstanding, so it could affect their license. And I don't think that they could get it done any other way. We're lucky to have face-to-face services to our people. They live in a rural county, and a lot of the farms, they have a lot of equipment, a lot of vehicles, and oftentimes they're, let's say one of the farmers die, and then they have a wife or a husband who's left, the surviving spouse, and they often have like a box of documents, but they don't even know what to do, where to start or anything else. We're not attorneys, but one thing we can do is say, this is what you need to sell this is what you need to keep it, this isn't updated, and we can sort it out for them. And really, I remember one woman, she had a whole, probably a year and a half to 2 years where she'd come in and do 15 things at a time. I don't know where she would be, and people like her, where they would be. I mean, this is just some of the things that happen in Cayuga County. The DMV helps families and individuals with insurance lapses. I know it's not good, but some of us do forget a bill here and there. And we have insurance lapses that we have to explain to them. You have to take vehicles off the road for a certain amount of time. I remember in particular, one woman, all the vehicles were registered in her name. So all the vehicles for like 3 or 4 months, all summer and everything, all the vehicles in their family of like 5 people, they have no vehicles to use. You would have to rent a vehicle or whatever because of insurance lapses. But this isn't something, they come in and they're all upset. We verify it and we try to explain things to them, try to get it through them, through, all these problems. Timing is everything. Of course, the state's Real ID, that kicked in at the same time the county office building shut down, I guess, just about the same time. And the temporary DMV as county jail is a very small office. We're very thankful that we have a room there for it, but it's very small and there's little room for customers to wait. So there's no number system that we used to have and everything else. If anybody has gotten a Real ID, the EDL, the state requires, especially that of women, all of the names they've ever used and multiple different kind of documents. And we have to explain that to people. They might have to make a trip or two, not because we didn't explain it or it isn't online, just that's the way it is. But then you wait. So I have talked to people that have been to our DMV. I've been there a couple of times. Regardless that they had to wait, they were helped and they were very happy with the customer service. But it was bad timing on that whole thing. And you're still getting probably a lot of lines, right, and people waiting. And I think they're just trying to be patient. I could go on. about all the extra steps our DMV takes to help your customers. But my time is limited tonight. So our DMV helps all people, the young, the old. And they have actually helped increase organ donors by a great percentage. They have also assisted incarcerated people in order to get them a state ID. Shireen started that. We're the only DMV in the state to do this. As a matter of fact, because we had that computer at the jail and then the sheriff partnered with us, because of that, we were able to, when this whole building thing hit, at least we had one computer there, and then the state said, you got one there, we're gonna add two to it, just because of that. But more than that, it helps people to stay out of jail and to get a bank account and to do all these things when they leave jail. Some people, if you can imagine, have never had a state ID in their hand. So that's a very valuable program that we have there. So I'm asking our entire county legislature to find a permanent location for our DMV office that includes free parking, enough space for a seated waiting room, adequate space for multiple workstations with room to review and process transactions, and room for storage. That's not, a big castle and a big wish. Those are things that are absolutely vital to what they do on a daily basis. They need workstations with room to review the transactions. We hope, lots of us in this community, we hope this move would be permanent, but maybe a 5-year lease somewhere would work too.
Sue, can you wrap it up, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
The entire staff has done their best to serve the people of our county during this challenging time, and it is time to support the staff so they can continue to help those in need. I wasn't too much over, right? So thank you for allowing me the privilege of the floor, and it's great to see it.
Thank you, Sue.
Anyone else for privilege of the floor? Any motion to approve the minutes from June 12th and June 24th? Welcome, move. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Any communications in the minute? Dr. Duran is here. Thank you, sir, for your patience.
Still with that. Good evening, everyone. Everyone's doing well. Trying to be relatively brief, although we do have a resolution in your packet for your consideration with a budget that I'll get to in a moment. In the last month or so, certainly we're focused on wrapping up our 24-25 academic year, reviewing our program services, going over our assessment reports, and also the process of planning our orientation. About 1 month from now, we'll be kicking off our 25-26 years. Summer in higher ed is almost over. You all can embrace it for a few more months. In the last, over the last couple of years, we're certainly very proud of the number of things the college has been able to do, both on the program development side, and facility side, and a number of other things we've talked about at length in time. But one of the other things that we are certainly proud of, and you may be aware of it, as I know was publicly shared in the paper recently, is that through work of the last few years, led by our faculty, our board, certainly in administration, and a number of people across the campus college community, we just received formal notification from middle states that our accreditation has been reaffirmed for another 8 years without any monitoring, any follow-up, or any other activities the college must do. And I don't say this because I'm trying to provide, certainly extra confidence about what we're doing at the college, but if anyone pays attention to what's happening across this world, and certainly state, and I know locally, the world of higher education is a very difficult time right now, right? Just like everyone else we deal with in government, we deal with across the country, declining demographics, competition, and a number of other factors. And certainly the pressures we all have to be able to be as agile as possible to support economic development, human resource development, and not always having the right scale and size to resource those moments, I think puts a lot of pressure on us. But high quality, accountable education is one that we know that our students, our alumni, our board, certainly the public demands of us, and getting the affirmation of accreditation for us, and certainly in such a positive way, is one that we will not take lightly and we will celebrate as a college. And we certainly appreciate the support of the legislature, the leadership of our trustees, and so many others to do that. Our next review will be in 8 years. This is the second review that we've had since I've been here, started 10 years ago. And this is the second time we've been able to put ourselves in position of a clean accreditation report. So we're certainly proud of that. I also want to say from the college perspective, now the summer enrollments again, the last time I was here was in May. We're on pace now to feel relatively comfortable to say that we've increased our enrollment year over year by 5%. And last year, I believe we ended up about 2.5% to 3% above the previous year. So 8% enrollment growth in 2 years for us as a college, given all the factors that we're experiencing and anticipating. Our goal is certainly not, our goal is to be realistic. From a leadership perspective, we'll continue to be realistic. I will never stand in front of you, probably during my tenure here, and say that our goal is to grow the institution. Right now, our goal is to have as much stability as possible, given the reality of declining demographics in K-12 and certainly in our service area, unless things change that trajectory. If we change that trajectory, then we will talk about that, of course. Micron may be an initiative that does it. Other companies and organizations coming into our communities may also do it. And certainly state programs that I talked about last time with the SUNY Restart program of encouraging and reducing financial barriers for adult learners in high need areas to be able to enroll in college and to be able to have tuition and fees covered for them is an example of public policy at the state level that provides opportunity to perhaps reduce the barrier and increase our trajectory of enrollment. So we're working very diligently with our partners at the SUNY level, certainly regionally and globally, to help market and position ourselves to make sure that adults between the ages of 25 and 55 are aware of the financial support that will now be available for them if they want to choose to pursue the programs that are approved by the state, primarily in the areas of high needs healthcare, technology, business, and certainly in advanced manufacturing and others, to name a few, as well as some education transfer pathways down the road. So it's a great opportunity for individuals that perhaps are looking at, not wanting to take on extra student loan debt or other things. Perhaps they started college at one point, or maybe they haven't ever before. But that's a really good program that the state has put out in front of the government, support of the legislature and the State University of New York, and we look forward to that. Implementation starts now in the fall, and we're going to have a number of recruitment events that we'll be marketing, conversations with individuals. As long as an individual doesn't already have an earned degree and they're of that age and a resident of New York, they are eligible. And the next piece of that is to matriculate and enroll in one of the approved programs. So if you hear anybody out there that's curious about it, please forward to our admissions office and let them talk to you about that. As we look ahead, of course, certainly we start with our budget process. Our budget resolution in front of you today represents the support of our college community, our trustees. And it's one for you as a county, certainly represents what we're asking for. The technical language is the maintenance of effort. The college is not asking the county for an increase in sponsor support this year, although I believe it's important to incrementally increase where we can, because that helps us to be mindful of not putting a burden on our students to increase tuition and trying to be living within our means and so on and so forth. But the reality of it is I understand and have been observing certainly the current decisions and things that we weigh as a community, and with the college and its current financial strength for this year, we felt like through the leadership of our board that we would not be asking for an increase, and that our budget does represent a 3% tuition increase to students, and our fees are held flat for all of our students. But the 3% tuition increase, we will be utilizing our fund balance of about $900,000 of it. And ultimately, we've worked very hard with the trustees over the last decade to certainly strengthen our financial position for stability, but also we work very diligently year in and year out to have reasonable predictions of our revenues. And we've been able to live within our means as best we can. Overall, our budget is I think it's 29.5 overall. And it just as a context for that, when I arrived in 2015, the inherited budget I had was $31 million. It's been as low as $25 million since I've been here, and we've incrementally moved it through to get to where we are today through lots of strategic decision-making and other pieces that, have been a priority for us as an institution, and, sometimes difficult, but most importantly, We've been guided by just trying to keep it as simple as possible. We have resources that come in, we live within those, and we try to be mindful of all the other revenue aspects that we have. So I think it's a responsible budget. Ultimately, the percentage of the county's contribution since the overall budget increases, but the flat $3.2-ish million that you provide us is the same, would be you're providing 11% of our overall operating budget for next year. I encourage your support. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have one question. The program you're talking about, the program, I didn't catch the name of it. What's the name of the
SUNY
program?
Reconnect.
SUNY Reconnect.
New York Reconnect.
Anyone else? Questions? Dr. Rand, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Committee reports or individual legislative reports, anyone? All right, so we're on the report. For those that weren't there, campus management team did present a cover maps this month. We are in the process of gathering further information to requesting. If you heard the government ops meeting, our goal is to present a cost analysis regarding 160 Gen in September to allow this board to make an educational informed decision regarding future county office building. So right now, just to clarify, they did ask for additional information, mostly revolving the contents of the building. Their goal is not to give us a rough number, but to give us a solid number of what the potential renovation or removal of items and cleaning costs would be if we just want to proceed with staying at 160 or options as such. So that'll be taking place. The goal is within September. And it'll most likely have to have a special meeting for that. So we're not occupying a full lunch meeting for it at the end of the month. If the report's ready earlier, we'll do it as soon as it's available so we don't waste time. Also, next month, we're meeting at Lock Fire Department in the southern half of our county. This will give our citizens the opportunity to attend a meeting locally as we work to represent our entire county. And then in September, we'll be doing the same in the north as we'll be meeting at the Sterling Nature Center and hosting our September meeting there. IT is continuing to work towards moving the IT data center, the Auburn Fire Department, as well as working with the city of Auburn, so we are providing IT services. The implementation of this project between the city and the town is off to a great start. And I'm hearing good news on both sides from both city leadership and from town. During this month, I also met with department heads in various departments regarding our fiscal budget performance and started to look at FY26. At the Ways meeting this past month, they also gave us pretty much the same presentations at Ways and Means. I've also met with our budget director in this past week, and Lynn and I have established a timeline regarding budget preparations, and it remains my goal to present the 2026 budget to this board prior to the end of October. With that said, prior to the end of this meeting, we will be going into an executive session to discuss the salary of a particular person or persons. Afterwards, we will be going into recess for legal advice, then adjourning the meeting. There will be no additional votes or business after the executive session, so anybody in the gallery does not need to stay for any business. With that, Ways and Means.
Yes, Ways and Means had 3 resolutions that went through committee. Ways and Means 1, authorizing the settlement of the matter of Nucor Steel in Auburn. I think Ed Vitale asked a question about would there be a refund that would be due? And I did talk with Jenny today, and the refund would be to the pilot, and the resolution says, and this is the county's amount, not to exceed $30,000, but she said after further analysis, it's going to end up to be about $23,000. She's encouraging us to support this Nucor settlement. Ways and Means 2 is authorizing the purchase of tax foreclosed property owned by Cayuga County, and it was to a prior owner, is my understanding. And Ways and Means 3 is a routine resolution where we allocate insurance costs to departments that receive reimbursement. I'd like to see if I could make a bundle WM 1, 2, and 3 and get a motion and a vote.
Motion for 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, and 3.
Bundle.
Nightingale, second.
Any discussion on the bundle 1, 2, and 3? Without further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Legislator Nightingale.
Mr. Chair, Health and Human Services had 4 resolutions this month, All of them passed unanimously through committee and through Ways and Means. I'd like to first bundle HH1 and HH2. I'll explain.
Can we get a motion?
I'll move the bundle, HH one and two.
So HH1 is an authorization to fill a social services attorney in the Department of Social Services. HH2 is an authorization to fill 6 caseworkers through the HELP program. This has gone through the Civil Service Commission and the Personnel Committee, as has HH1. They're all budgeted positions. The 6 caseworker HELP positions will allow us to move forward with potential recruitment right away. The individuals are waived the necessity of taking the civil service exam, and that's what the HELP program's all about.
Any questions on the bundle of HH1 or 2? Now, it's my understanding that there's no abolishing of any positions because the health positions do become civil service positions at time. Is that correct?
Correct.
Without any further questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
HH3 is authorizing the chair of the Ledge and the public health director to enter into a contract. This contract is with City BOCES to provide audiological services for children who are eligible for such under the state education law through the preschool special education services. This is mandated by us. This is also, this particular service, City BOCES, is essentially the only service in the area that can provide these sort of services in a local or regional way.
I'll move HH3.
I'll second.
Any discussion, HH3? Without discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And finally, HH4 is allowing public health to accept dual settlement funds. These are funds which will happen for the next 8 years, although the first 3 of those 8 years will come to us in a bundle. It's an amount of money well over $370,000. The yearly amount is about $41,000. We will not be hiring an individual in the health department to do anything with these dual funds. Our department head will work with current educators, current people within the department, or contract out to appropriate providers who already work with youth developing organizations, as these funds are specifically aimed at educational services to prevent the use of vaping equipment. Excuse me.
I'll move HH4.
Second. Okay. Any discussion on HH4? Well, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Chair, I have 2 resolutions. GO1 is authorizing the transfer of funds in Cayuga County Clerk budget.
I'll move that.
Second.
And you have any discussion on the law? All in favor?
Aye.
And I have GO2, approving 2025 to 26 budget for Cayuga County Community College.
Nightingale, move it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion on GO2? I'd like to thank the college for keeping the number flat for us this year. Without any further discussion, then all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Planning has 1 resolution authorizing the signing of a contract with the United States Geological Survey for operations and maintenance of a satellite link flow gauging station
on the Wasco Inlet.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? For discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Public Works has two resolutions. They both went through committee and Ways and Means. Both of them are related to bridge work that'll happen in 2026. So I'd like to bundle PW1 and PW2.
Move it.
Second.
All right, first and second on the bundle. Any discussion on the bundle? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wins one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judicial Public Safety has a total of 3 resolutions, all which went through both committees unanimously. Offer up JP1, authorizing the chairperson of Cayuga County Legislature to sign a 1-year contract with Gruber Power Services for maintenance of the uninterruptible power supply in the backup 911 center.
Move JP1.
Thank you. Second.
All right, second, first and second, any discussion on JP one? No discussion, all in favor? Any opposed?
JP2, authorization to transfer funds in the Cayuga County probation budget.
Thank you. Move it.
First, we have second discussion on JP two. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And JP3, resolution to change the terms of the Sheriff's Employees Association of Cayuga County's contract to allow for qualified lateral transfer and consideration of previous experience of new hires from other county and state jail facilities. Be hired with credit and consideration for prior service time when setting their starting salary.
Can I get a vote? Second,
Second.
all right, any discussion on JP three? Okay, without any discussion, all in favor of JP three?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have 2 ledge resolutions. 3 ledge resolutions. Ledge 1 is fixing with a notice of a public hearing, adopting local law for the year 2025 to amend and restate local law number 3, the year 1994, as part of the amendments to the bed tax section of the law. Can I get a first and second?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Second.
All right, it's just to set the public hearing. All in favor?
I have,
Aye.
Oh, you have a question?
Oh.
I just wanted to say, I'm not gonna stand in the way of a public hearing on this, but I do, so I will vote in favor of a public hearing, but I do have many questions.
Very good. All right. And we have a month to discuss it as well, and we have our public hearing for discussion. So, all right, without any further comments. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, so Ledge 2 appointing to the various boards, those listed on the first page, are appointed for this evening.
Nightingale. Move it.
Second.
All right, we have first, second, any discussion on Ledge 2?
I have a discussion, please.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that we have brought this up in the past. I've been not voting for any boards, appointments in boards or agencies until we get a plan to address redundancies and all our competencies we have.
I believe this was the recommendation for Board of Health on this one as well.
I got one too.
Yeah.
Also, unfortunately, I have not, seen who, is being appointed, and maybe this is my email, but I might have missed it.
Oh, it's right here.
And it's
Donna Solis for the Board of Health, 8679 South Street, Newport, New York.
Okay, I got you.
I sit on the Board of Health and this person got full recommendation coming. out of
No,
the
it's
board.
not that. It's my fault.
Oh, okay.
Totally my fault. Okay.
Any other comments or concerns? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then Ledge 3, fixing the date of hearing for formation of a county sewer district. Number 3, this would be the Hoppe Road Lake Protection Plan. And the other first,
Nightingale. Second.
any discussion, fixing the date for a public hearing for Ledge 3. All in favor?
Aye.
We're opposed. This time, I'd like to call an executive session to discuss the salaries of person or persons, As I stated earlier, there may be no other further business this evening. I go to list that recess and move on then. So. All right. I need to close this, go to executive session.
I'll move
it.
Second, third.
All. Aye. You can post one of executive.
Opposed to that, ladies.